So if we had our base, CAT, and I've added this S, what would I call that S? Suffix. Yeah, yay, good, it's a suffix. And how could I define a suffix? A suffix is, what is a suffix?
A sound that is placed at the end of the word.
Okay, so if I said that it is placed at the end of a word, what would happen if I had more than one suffix?
Yeah, you'd need to know the order.
So what is always going to be before a suffix? What am I always going to find before I can find a suffix?
A base.
A base, right? So if my base is CAT, right, and my S is placed, can be after a base. If I had a word like wonderingly, ooh, how many suffixes? But we're not, you know, we're not going to analyze that one down there. But is there more than one suffix at least in wonderingly? At least. So if my definition of suffix means end of the word, what is the student going to be missing out on? The suffix that's in the middle of the word, right? So I just want to teach them when I have a suffix, I'm going to find a base somewhere before it. Right? So we don't want to say a suffix goes at the end of a word, but a suffix is placed after a base. Does it have to be right after a base? Like wonderingly, is that ly suffix placed right after the base? No.
It's after another suffix.
Yeah, but is there a base somewhere before it? Yeah, we can't have a suffix without a base, right? There has to be a base before it. And the same with a prefix. So if I had a word like reconfirm, what's problematic if I teach a student that a prefix only goes at the beginning of a word? Or unrecorded. Can we have more than one prefix? So if I teach them a prefix only goes to the beginning of a word, then they just start to look at it physically. They're not thinking about that structure of that. We always want to be kind of pointing back to that base. So a prefix comes before a base. A suffix can come after a base rather than beginning and ending of a word. We combine that together and we get cats. What about if we add the suffix y? What word could we get? Catty. Hand up if you've heard that term, catty. You've heard the word catty. Sometimes we use words and we don't think about connections or where they came from. Now, we have this base element CAT and we added suffix y. What happened when we put those together?
The T doubled.
Right. So remember, going back to those three suffixing conventions, we had a doubling. And when we add that suffix y, that vowel suffix onto our previous element here, we have a single vowel ending in a single consonant. And so we have to double that. So just that reminder, those three suffixing conventions are super important. Now, if a student was writing catty and they said, oh yeah, my dad had one of those at the golf course. Do they mean this catty? No, because there's another word, catty, that's a homophone. But look at the spelling. The spelling is different because remember, the meaning is in that spelling. So if we were going to be looking at these, we could analyze and go, oh, I wonder why that has a D. Now see these two words, catty, 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 catty. Are you saying catty, catty? Are you doing a t in there? Is anybody saying catty? So if these are homophones, catty, that tells us that we're pronouncing the T's and the D's the same, aren't we? And yet we teach students that T is T and D is D. And in catty, I'm not feeling a T or a D. I'm feeling something kind of in between, that little flap, right? But if we look at the structure of that word, and this was actually a new one because I was thinking, oh, I'll put that in there. I'm like, oh, catty, I wonder where the heck that came from. So I had to look that up to see that the origins and where that word came from, which was kind of interesting. So remember, the spellings of morphemes are consistent across words despite pronunciation shifts. We have heal and health, right? We have H-E-A-L is our base element. Regardless of whether we pronounce it as heal or as hell, right? In health, it's pronounced that H-E-A-L is pronounced hell, but we still spell it the same way. The one that people seem to connect with the most because it's in all the programs are the three sounds of ed, right? We don't call it suffix ed or suffix d or suffix t because we're like, yeah, we can pronounce it three different ways. So always go back to think about announcing all of your morphemes, whether they're bases or prefixes or suffixes, as spellings, because we don't know how anything is going to be pronounced till we put it together into a word. Say this first word out loud. And think about how you're pronouncing the C-O-N. Now say this second word out loud. Are you pronouncing the C-O-Ns the same in these words? If I said contact, I don't say connect. I'm going to connect with you tomorrow. And I don't say contact. So one's con and one's can, right? And the O, think about how you're pronouncing the O in photograph versus in photography. Photo, that reduced vowel. And if you were a student, you might go photograph. You might put a little I in there if you're just sounding out, as opposed to thinking about that. And that O is a connecting vowel. And that connecting vowel O is in so many Greek origin words. So in Greek, that connecting vowel O connected bases.